Cyte 09 is our second most refreshing Warframe in a row. I personally thought Kome was incredibly unique, and whilst I don't have a problem with some of the previous Warframes released over the year, my honest opinion, Cyte 09 has a damage format that is really refreshing and unique to the category. Of course, this category being stealth based, it's kind of hard to make a sniper exalted frame really work amongst others such as, Dante, Jade, etc. Frames being released where their primary form of damage is in room clearing. Warframe's meta nowadays seems to span across any theme of Warframe they release. It's like every frame needs to be doing large room nuking damage in some fashion in order to keep up. Especially when we're looking at older frames such as Trinity, even after her rework she isn't focused on doing that damage. So Cyte 09 is already off to a bad start when you look at his theme. He's sniper and stealth based. Whilst being invisible is incredibly useful within Warframe and by all means a meta form of survivability, snipers have not aged well. They're usually slow and single target. This always worried me in how the devs would approach making this Warframe viable, because if we look at some recent Warframes, even Kome is kind of room nuke based, at least loosely, simply due to her 4 doing large amounts of damage in an AoE. Then we look at Dante, who of course puts slash everywhere and then detonates the damage. Jade of course throwing out her first ability and then nuking the room with her ult fire. Then we look at older frames, Saren, Mesa, Mirage, all of them have access to arguably room nuking levels of abilities, some that can even go through walls. Just enter a room and everything's dead. So how do you take a Warframe that's themed around being a sniper, which is of course slow and stealthy, and still have them do enough to keep up with modern day Warframe's meta? Cyte 09's approach is by having a ricocheting sniper round that can shoot through multiple blocks of a city and detonate hordes in a completely different street to the one you're standing in. And the fact that this really works in today's meta is a testament to how useful punch through is. So whilst his playstyle may be considered a bit slow or clunky due to the fact that you have to be invisible and stay within the areas of which your first ability is aiming, and then scope in maximum zoom for the most damage on your sniper, they really made this work with the design of the sniper and the way his abilities synergize. Let's talk about his kit real quick. Cyte 09's passive is based on weak points. Killing enemies via weak points will increase his weak point critical chance by 1% up to 300% of the duration of the current mission. So get 300 kills and you'll have this up to 300%. This is incredibly useful but not in short form content. His first ability, Seek, can plant down 3 antennas in different directions. They have an angle of 75-degree coverage, meaning that you want to face these in different directions. Enemies scanned by these will have weak points put on them, and this goes extremely far and through any surface. And this synergizes with the fact that it also gives you bonus weak point damage and punch through on your weapons. So pretty much any weapon you use can shoot through entire buildings and hit those weak points. Personally, I recommend using this with more sniper rifles and just hit scan weapons in general that don't really have fall off, just makes it way easier to hit those targets. This is just a wall hack skill that also grants your weapons the ability to have FMJ on. Onto his 2, Resupply. This grants you ammo packs in which you can select any element in the game to be infused onto you or your allies' weapons. This will infuse your entire mag, and at the end of the mag you can just cast it again to refill it. And this damage effect is doubled for sniper rifles. The fact that you can select any element in the game here is unbelievable, and I think it synergizes really well with his 4 and the way you can mod it. That's because his 4 does damage and is an exalted weapon, we can make use of Archon mods in the equation. And of course you can change the way you build your other weapons based on which elements you want to put on. Evade is his invis or main survivability source. You'll become invisible for a short duration, but killing enemies on their weak points extends the duration. These weak point kills will also heal you, so this is useful for any toxin procs that may be attached to you. And as long as you are killing enemies via weak points, you can keep this invis going forever. However, it is worth noting this does have a cooldown mechanic once the ability ends. Once you cast this ability, in the background, the cooldown will start taking place straight away, meaning that if you keep the ability going and extending its duration via those weak point kills past its cooldown of 60 seconds, that cooldown won't be there if the ability ends past that point. So if I was to be invisible for 20 seconds and the ability would expire, there would be 40 seconds to wait for the cooldown to expire. But if I'm invisible for longer than 60 seconds, there will be no cooldown if it ever runs out. There's an invisibility skill that actually wants you to not be AFK, keeps the playstyle interactive, has you aiming for weak points across the map, synergizing with of course your first ability and your passive. And finally moving on to his exalted sniper, Neutralize. This has 2 fire modes. The primary fire can ricochet off of weak point hits, so you want to synergize this with your first ability. The range of these ricochets is affected by power range, which is very important, and its ult fire shoots out a grenade. You can do this by ult firing whilst you are not ADSing, otherwise you'll simply zoom in, which you want to be zoomed in anyway because you'll of course gain the sniper damage multiplier. And this alt fire is a ice grenade that will freeze enemies it hits, holding them in place and of course meaning they take more crit damage. Due to the ricochet mechanic and the alt fire, this is one of the better exalted weapons in the game, and I don't think you're going to see it subsumed off of a lot of builds on him, unlike plenty of other exalted frames. And this is the direct ability that will most help you use Archon mods. As for his playstyle, you of course want to ramp up your invisibility duration. I personally like having the 4 active a lot of the time because it's so useful when combined with his 1. Casting invis and then of course setting down my first ability in as many different directions as I want. Applying what element I want to my sniper, and then just shooting weak points building up that duration, and everything is going to be dying from across the street. This is a frame that really wants you to focus on your aim and not miss shots. It isn't exactly punishing when you miss shots, but landing those good critical weak point hits are extremely beneficial. So not only does he take a little more effort to play than most frames, but the payoff is definitely there for when you do so. There are a lot of ways you can go about modding him. We're of course using the new aura mod Worthy Camaraderie. This of course gives you more critical chance on your weak points, which synergizes perfectly with him. And then you'll probably ask why Prime Chauffeured and Rolling Guard, because he's invisible. Even on perma invisible Warframes, I think it's nice and safe to have Rolling Guard because I like playing with plenty of random teammates, and if damage is coming our way, it still has a chance to hit you, so not getting knocked down or attacked by Eximus abilities. It's just an extra layer of protection, but it is optional. Prime Flow and Energy Nexus for our energy sustain, Overextended and Archon Stretch for our range, which is going to help with not only the range of our first ability, but also the ricochet on our ult. The ricochet is going to allow us to spread that damage way further and makes this much more of a nuke frame. Umbral Intensify and Augur Secrets to offset the strength loss from Overextended. We'll get onto the arcanes in a second. And now to address the use of both of these Archon mods. These are directly related to not only his second ability, but also how we mod our sniper. Specifically what I like to do at the start of a mission on this frame when using Energy Nexus is to infuse my Exalted Sniper with electricity. This means that any damage that I deal electricity from the sniper will give me that bonus energy regen and stack with Energy Nexus for a much faster build up of energy at the beginning of a mission, which is really nice. Not necessary, but it can be used, so if you can't fit this in, just go regular stretch. And then for Archon Continuity, I'm simply building my neutralizer for Toxin. This means that my sniper is doing both Toxin and Corrosive, which is incredibly useful with multiple factions. Now with this update, we did get a new Arcane, which is perfect for Cyte 09, but I don't have it yet. And even if I did, it wouldn't be maxed out, so I've personally gone with Molt Augmented and Arcane Ice Storm for more strength. Molt Augmented being the more universal one here, but Arcane Ice Storm really works with him because your alt fire on your sniper rifle instantly freezes groups of enemies, making this very easy to trigger, and it gives you bonus duration as well, helping out with your invis. Do not sleep on this Arcane, it's incredibly useful on him. But of course the other Arcane we have to address is Krapulska, which just came out, and this gives you up to 30% ability strength and plus 3 times final critical multiplier. As you can imagine, this is absolutely mental, and personally I'd probably recommend getting rid of Molt Augmented for this one, but if you don't really like spamming the alt fire too much, then you could of course get rid of Ice Storm for this. Just interchange whatever one, is completely up to you based on your playstyle. It depends on what you want to lead more towards, whether you like having that bonus duration and strength from Ice Storm, or you just want the bonus strength from Molt Augmented. So yeah, this frame feels very good when it comes to Arcane options. And of course we have to look at the Neutralizer mod setup. There's 2 new mods that came out with this update that are of course tailor-made for him, and a couple of other Warframes which we want to go over soon, them being Primary Acuity and Spectral Serration. Spectral Serration only works when you're invisible, but gets you more damage than regular Serration would if you are invisible, which he always is. Primary Acuity does remove your ability to mod for multi-shot, so we don't have any mods in here for multi-shot. However, this gives you way more weak point damage and bonus weak point critical chance. Of course we've got Critical Delay and Vital Sense and Hammer Shot for our crit stats. Of course we're modding for Toxin, so that way we can make use of Archon Continuity, which means that we're proccing both Toxin and Corrosive at the same time. Then we've thrown on this for magnetic damage. This is going to help versus Eximus units, and we could throw on another element with our second ability, usually either going to be something like Viral or Blast. And of course, because we're running so many elements with these combinations, we can run Aptitude here too, acting as our condition overload effect. I think what's making Cyte 09 way more interesting in the modding capacity is this update in general. The fact that he's got new mods he can work with and arcanes, it's just making him a bit more exciting and less bare bones in the way that we would normally mod a new Warframe. I'd highly recommend you try out the Archon mods on him, because it does work when you're doing the correct elemental combinations on his sniper rifle, but I'd also understand if you want to forego the ability entirely. It's truly a testament to how good the Neutralizer really is, because I felt like everyone was going to remove this ability with the helmet upon the update dropping, because exalted weapons don't often scale too well nowadays, at least without augments. Let me know if you guys are satisfied with Cyte 9 in the comments section. I personally think he's a pretty fun Warframe overall, and I normally don't enjoy playing invis frames, but he's satisfying enough to cross the line. Appreciate all the support lately as per usual. All my links will be in the description if you are interested, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, it helps me out a bunch. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.